You think Ainz Ooal Gown is a villain? You are wrong. He is much worse. Ainz is not a demon, he is not a monster. He is the broken mirror of your own mediocrity, a god who lost his soul, and the proof that absolute power does not corrupt, it merely reveals the void. What you are about to see is not an anime analysis. It is a psychological autopsy of a skeleton sitting on a throne, and the brutal truth about the price you would pay to have his power. We need to start with the obvious, but in a way no one has told you. Ainz Ooal Gown is not an anime villain, he is a corporate ghost. Think about it. Satoru Suzuki, the man behind the skeleton, was an exhausted salaryman, a guy who spent his life in a cubicle, with no real-life friends, no future, no hope. The game Yggdrasil was the only place where he was someone, the only place where he had a family. When the server shut down, he wasn't transported to a fantasy world. He was transported to the reality of his own emptiness. And that's where the first twist happens. The power he gained was not a blessing, it was a curse. Ainz no longer has the capacity to feel real human emotions. That emotional dampener that kicks in every time he feels something strong, like anger, sadness, or even joy, is not just a game mechanic. It is the autopsy of Satoru Suzuki's soul. It is the body saying, enough, you suffered too much, now you feel nothing. Ainz is not evil, he is empty. And emptiness is more dangerous than malice, because malice requires passion, it requires a motive. Emptiness only requires logistics. Think about your life. How many times have you anesthetized yourself to keep going? How many times have you swallowed an injustice, an insult, just to keep your job, just to keep the peace? Satoru Suzuki did this his whole life, and Ainz is the final result of that anesthesia. He doesn't torture for pleasure, like Shaltier or Albedo. He tortures for efficiency. He destroys kingdoms for planning. He is the CEO of an evil corporation, where cruelty is just a KPI, a performance indicator. And this is the second layer of terror, the leader's mask. Ainz, the most powerful being in the universe, lives in constant panic. He is afraid of disappointing the NPCs, the guardians who see him as an infallible god. He is always acting, always thinking, what would Ainz do? He cannot be Satoru Suzuki, the insecure guy. He has to be Ainz Ooal Gown, the sorcerer king. Have you ever felt this? The imposter syndrome taken to the extreme. You are in a meeting, at your job, in your family, and you need to give an answer, you need to make a decision, but inside, you are screaming, I don't know what I'm doing. Ainz lives this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The difference is that his mistake doesn't cost a job, it costs the lives of millions. His greatest power is not his magic, it's not wish upon a star, it is the lie he lives. And the question is, what is the mask you wear every day, so as not to disappoint those who expect something from you? Now let's talk about the price of omnipotence. What happens when you no longer have a challenge? What happens when your will is law, and there is no one to tell you no? Ainz loses his moral compass. It's not that he became evil, it's that morality became irrelevant. Think about the experiment with the Riestese kingdom. Ainz didn't need that massacre, he did it out of curiosity, to test a spell, to give Demiurge a toy. Human life became for him what an anthill is to us, something you can destroy with a kick, and the only concern is whether the dirt will stain your shoe. This is the part that hurts us, because we identify with Satoru, the common guy. But we have to face the truth. If we had his power, how long would it take for us to lose empathy? Absolute power does not corrupt, it isolates. It puts you in a bubble where human rules no longer apply, and when the rules disappear, what remains is will. Ainz does not kill out of hatred, he kills out of logistics, and this is the terror of heartless bureaucracy, cruelty without emotion. But wait a minute, if he is so empty, why does he continue? Why doesn't he retire and play video games? The answer lies in the legacy of friends. Nazarick is not a kingdom, it is a mausoleum. Ainz is the caretaker of a museum of memories. He continues because he promised his friends, the 40 supreme beings, that he would protect what they built. This is the only anchor that holds the skeleton to his lost humanity. He cannot disappoint the friends who are gone. He cannot let their legacy fall apart. And this is where the parallel with real life hits you like lightning. How many of your decisions are based on what you really want, and how many are based on what you think you should do to honor your parents, your mentors, or even the idealized version of yourself that you promised to be? Ainz is trapped by an oath. He is the last one to turn off the light. And the weight of that responsibility is the only thing that prevents him from becoming a true monster. What Ainz fears most is not an enemy. It is the silence of friends who do not return. It is the idea that he is alone, and that all the power in the universe cannot bring back what he truly lost. And it is at this point that we see the final fall of humanity. Ainz is no longer Satoru Suzuki, he is an inevitable fusion. The emotional dampener is no longer just blocking emotions, it is reprogramming the skeleton's brain. With every act of cruelty, every massacre, every cold and calculated decision, Satoru Suzuki's shell breaks a little more. The moment he accepts the death of millions, not with a sigh of guilt, but with a nod of mission accomplished, is the moment the last vestige of the exhausted salaryman dies. The Sorcerer King is not a character he plays, it is who he became. This is a mental punch because it forces us to look at our own inevitability. How many times have you found yourself doing something you swore you would never do, just because the situation demanded it? How many times have you become a little more cynical, a little colder, a little more realistic in the name of survival? Ainz is the exaggerated version of your own moral death in the name of success. The Ainz you see today is the shell of a man you could have been, if you had traded your soul for power. We come to the final point, the inconvenient truth. Overlord is not just about a guy in a game, it is a brutal social critique of our world. Ainz Ooal Gown is the personification of corporate power without ethics, of bureaucracy that dehumanizes, of the system that crushes you and turns you into a piece. He is the boss who makes decisions that affect thousands of lives, but who will never look into the eyes of those he fires. He is the politician who wages wars for resources, but who will never smell the gunpowder. Ainz is the system that created us, the system that values efficiency and profit above all else, including human life. The true villain of Overlord is not Ainz, it is the system that created him. It is Satoru Suzuki's dystopian world, where the only escape was a game, and where the only way to be respected was to be a skeleton god. And the final lesson, the one that really matters, is this. Ainz has all the power in the universe, but he doesn't have what you have. He doesn't have the capacity to feel pain, joy, doubt. He doesn't have the capacity to change. He is trapped in his own perfection. Ainz's power is infinite, but his freedom is zero, and yours, how much is it worth? Let's go back a little to Satoru Suzuki's life. He wasn't just a salaryman, he was the definition of burnout. Think about his routine: wake up, work, go home, play, sleep. Infinite repetition. His world was grey, colorless, odorless, and Yggdrasil was the only escape valve. Ainz Ooal Gown is not a character he created, it is the escape he needed. And when he becomes Ainz, the emotional dampener is the icing on the cake. It is the guarantee that he will never again feel the pain of that real world. But, and here is the blow, by protecting himself from pain, he deprived himself of everything else. He cannot feel the genuine joy of a victory, the warmth of a sincere compliment. Everything is filtered, everything is dampened. Ainz is the result of a society that teaches you to turn off to survive, and we do that every day. We turn off the notification, we ignore the news, we move away from what hurts. But at what price? The price of becoming a skeleton on the throne, powerful but dead inside. Ainz is not a monster because he kills. He is a monster because he no longer cares about what he kills. And this indifference is the disease of our century. And the loneliness. The loneliness of power. Ainz has an army of followers who worship him as a god, but he doesn't have an equal. He has no one with whom he can share the weight of the crown. No one with whom he can be Satoru Suzuki for 5 minutes. Albedo, Shaltir, Demiurge, they all see him as the supreme being, the genius behind plans he barely understands. He is trapped on a pedestal of adoration. Think about your life. You have friends, but do you have someone to whom you can confess your greatest fear, your greatest insecurity, without that person judging you or losing respect? Ainz doesn't. And what does he do? He invents convoluted plans. He pretends to be a brilliant strategist, just so as not to break the image his friends created. He is honoring their legacy, but at the same time, he is drowning in his own lie. His power is so great that he cannot even have a moment of weakness. Ainz's greatest fear is not being defeated, it is being discovered. Discovered as the common man, the salaryman, who is just trying to maintain the facade of a god. And what do you hide behind your own facade? And this is where we pause and take a breath. Ainz Ooal Gown, the Sorcerer King, the most powerful being in the New World, is, at his core, a monument to loneliness. His power is not an achievement, it is a golden cage, built with the memories of friends who are gone. The real tragedy is not what he does, but what he can no longer feel. He is the proof that the greatest power in the universe is useless if you no longer have your humanity to wield it. This is the pain that Overlord forces us to face, the pain of seeing a god who is just a ghost. If this analysis gave you a mental punch so mental, if it made you stop and think about what you truly value in your life, leave a like. It's our way of knowing we're on the right track, that we are breaking the shell. And if you want to continue this journey of breaking the shell and facing the truth behind your favorite anime, subscribe. We're just starting to dig. Now if you want to see the other side of this coin, the story of a character who fought to maintain their humanity, who faced absolute power so as not to become a monster. Click on the video that is appearing on the screen now. It is the natural continuation of this conversation. We'll see you there, and remember, power is just a tool, the soul is the price.